Hey everyone, imagine this. You wake up tomorrow, walk to the market to buy bread, and instead of handing over a big, bulky 20,000 note, that's hard to count and even harder to manage, you hand over something that feels neat, simple, and makes perfect sense in everyday life. That's exactly the shockwave that just hit, because the Central Bank of Iraq has officially slashed 3 zeros off the 20,000 dinar note. Yes. 20,000 is no longer 20,000. It's smaller, tighter, easier to carry, easier to think about. And if you've ever held Iraqi dinar, whether you're living inside Iraq, abroad with family back home, or watching developments from afar, this move changes everything. It's not just a new look for the money in your wallet. This is a dramatic financial reset. And today, we're diving deep, breaking down what this change really means, what it might lead to next, and how you can stay ahead, stay safe, and stay hopeful. Stick around until the end, because this could be a turning point in Iraq's economic story. So what happened exactly in plain, simple English? The Central Bank of Iraq has declared that the 20,000 dinar note will no longer carry those 3 trailing zeros. A note that once read 20,000 will now read 20. Not a revaluation, at least not yet, but a redenomination, a reshuffling of the numbers so the currency becomes simpler, cleaner, easier to use. Why zeros? Because over time, inflation and economic pressures made everyday prices and wages involve massive numbers. Imagine paying for groceries, bills, or rent with bundles of high-denomination notes. That's clunky and confusing. So what the government is doing now is essentially chopping off extra zeros to tidy things up. The note you used to call 20,000 dinar doesn't disappear, its value is redefined. Instead of giant numbers that feel abstract, you'll deal with smaller, manageable figures. Your 20,000 dinar note becomes 20, but its underlying value, after conversion rules, stays equivalent. That's the magic, or at least the plan, behind this currency shakeup. This kind of move, cutting zeros from a currency, is called redenomination. Why do countries do it? Typically, it's a sign that inflation over time has made the currency heavy, unwieldy, and psychologically disconnected from real value. When you see prices like 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 on everyday goods, your brain starts ignoring zeros. It becomes natural. But that also hides the true value of things. So authorities simplify. They reissue new banknotes and coins with fewer zeros, wiping off the extra zeros, but preserving real value. The result, numbers you actually understand when you pay or get paid. For a country like Iraq, which has experienced economic stress, inflationary pressure, and currency depreciation over decades, this step isn't cosmetic. It's practical. It's about restoring clarity. It's about making money make sense again. For ordinary people, absolutely essential. For rebuilding trust in currency, in markets, and in the financial system. What's the immediate effect for everyday people? The shoppers, the shopkeepers, families living paycheck to paycheck. Imagine going to the bakery, the vegetable seller, or the small grocery store. Instead of handing a big wad of paper labeled 20,000, you hand a note labeled 20. It's lighter, easier to count, easier to communicate. Prices will adjust. Shelves that once said 15,000 dinar for a bag of flour might now show 15. And your mind instantly gets what that means. When zeros dominate a currency, people deal with large, abstract numbers. It's easy to lose track or miscount, or just treat money as some intangible lots of zeros. Now you get a bill that fits on your palm and feels reasonably human-sized. For everyday commerce, everything from the neighborhood market to bill payments to small business transactions, this makes daily life simpler. It reduces confusion. It makes giving change clearer. It reduces counting mistakes. For most Iraqis, that's a relief. And that's often the core intention of redenomination, to simplify everyday economic life. Beyond convenience, this redenomination sends a powerful signal that the government is serious about stability, about trying to contain inflation, about making the economy more functional. When authorities reduce zeros, they're essentially telling the public, we are resetting, we want to rebuild trust. For people who hold dinar, whether as salary, savings, or even as long-term investment, this matters. It reasserts the idea that the dinar is stable, real, and usable again locally. It could help restore confidence, people may be more willing to keep money in local currency rather than converting and hoarding foreign currency or physical assets. For businesses, it simplifies accounting, bookkeeping, pricing. For banks and financial systems, it reduces complexity. In a nutshell, what feels like cosmetic cleaning is actually a foundational step. It's like renovation after storm, cleaning rubble so you can rebuild solid walls. Now, for those who live outside Iraq, hold dinar as part of heritage or speculative investment, what does this mean for you? First, you'll need to follow official announcements. This isn't a change that affects value by itself. At least not immediately. The redenomination does not spontaneously convert your dinar to US dollars or gold. Rather, it resets the unit of currency. So your 20,000 dinar note becomes 20 dinar, or equivalent per conversion rules. If you had many notes, their total value after conversion should stay roughly the same, assuming stable economic conditions. What changes is the psychological and practical aspect. Big numbers shrink. Money becomes easier to think about. But many who've hoped for a sudden revaluation, a dramatic increase in dinar's exchange rate against foreign currencies, must understand redenomination is not the same as revaluation. It may pave the way for reforms that might lead to revaluation, but by itself, it's not automatically a guarantee that your dinar holdings will become worth a fortune. So how does the exchange process work? Usually, after redenomination is announced, the central bank issues guidelines. Old notes remain legal tender for a transition period during which people can deposit or exchange them at banks, exchange offices, or authorized centers. After the deadline, old notes may no longer be accepted. Prices, salaries, and banking records will adjust accordingly. For example, a salary of 2 million dinar would become 2,000 after redenomination shift. For ordinary bank accounts, balances likewise shift. The aim is to keep value intact while simplifying the numbers. It's likely that the central bank will give a clear window, perhaps several months, where old and new notes coexist to allow smooth conversion, avoid confusion, and prevent panic. For people holding physical dinar notes, this means keeping them safe, organizing them properly, and following official instructions carefully. With change this big, you'll inevitably see rumors, speculation, and scammers. Some will claim there's a secret revaluation ratio much higher than official, offering risky exchanges or promising overnight riches. Others will try to sell privileged conversion or early access. It's vital to resist those. Always wait for concrete instructions from official sources, central bank announcements, national media, or authorized banks. Avoid underground exchange promises. Don't trust messages that guarantee unrealistic returns or urge you to act fast. In a process like this, unscrupulous individuals prey on fear and greed. The safest path is to stay patient, stay alert, and follow only verified channels. That way you don't risk losing your holdings or slipping into scams. What might be the medium-term macroeconomic impact of this redenomination? Well, by simplifying currency and restoring confidence, it could modestly help curb inflation expectations. That alone doesn't solve inflation. That requires broader structural reforms, but it helps psychologically. When people believe that their money counts, that prices make sense again, they may be less inclined to rush into hoarding goods or foreign currencies, which often drives further inflation. For businesses and markets, simpler pricing can reduce errors and fraud, encourage smoother transactions, and make accounting more transparent. It could also help banking and financial institutions rebuild public trust, helping encourage remittances, deposits, and even investment. For a country working to stabilize after years of turmoil, such small but meaningful steps add up. But it's not all smooth sailing. There are risks and challenges. First, redenomination alone doesn't fix the economy. If inflationary pressures, budget deficits, or political instability continue, people may lose trust quickly again. The simplified notes might start feeling heavy once more if prices keep climbing. Second, there may be logistical complications, shortage of new notes, confusion over exchange centers, long queues, delays, all of which can frustrate ordinary citizens. Third, there's a risk that some people might panic sell dinar right after conversion, fearing further drops, which could reduce demand for local currency and spark exchange rate pressure. Managing public perception is as important as managing actual economics. Another critical point to understand is what this means regarding the hopes and rumors of a dramatic revaluation of the dinar against foreign currencies like USD. Some advocates of the dinar investment community believe redenomination lays the groundwork for revaluation, a big jump in exchange rate, which would vastly increase the dollar value of dinar holding. While redenomination could precede reforms that eventually led to revaluation, it is not the same thing. Removing zero simply resets the currency's unit. For revaluation, you need stronger fundamentals, economic growth, foreign investment, currency controls, stable governance. Until we see signs of those, like trade improvements, oil revenue stability, transparent monetary policy, it's speculative to expect revaluation. So while this is a hopeful sign for stability, it is not a guarantee of wealth. For people outside Iraq or diaspora holders, those of you watching from abroad maybe holding dinar from years ago, this is the time to stay informed but stay realistic. Your holdings may become simpler to manage, but the real-world value will depend on what happens afterward. If you think of dinar as a long-term hold, pay attention to official communication, economic indicators, and credible news about government plans. Diversify if possible. Don't assume a sudden jump. And most of all, protect yourself from hype, promises, or too good to be true stories. The safest play is calm, informed patience. What should you do right now to prepare? First, keep your dinar notes safe and documented. If you have physical bills, store them securely. Make a list, denomination, quantity, serial numbers if possible. Second, don't give in to rumors about quick exchanges or secret deals. Until official channels open, hold tight. Third, watch for announcements from the central bank or trusted national news platform about exchange procedures, deadlines, and authorized banks' exchange centers. Fourth, be prepared for some confusion or backlog, especially at banks and official centers. Once conversion begins, many people will be exchanging at once. Play early, but don't rush. What comes next in the likely timeline? Typically, after redenomination announcement, first, a grace period where old and new notes are valid. Second, banks and exchange centers begin exchanging or converting old notes. Third, businesses, retailers, markets update price tags and accounting systems. Fourth, salaries, wages, and pensions are reissued or recalculated in new units. And finally, old notes are gradually withdrawn from circulation. This process can take weeks, months, or sometimes longer, depending on how smoothly distribution and public cooperation go. For the central bank, this is a big logistical push. For citizens, it's a transition. Keep an eye out. Changes may roll out in phases. Let's also consider what this might mean for import, export trade, foreign business relations, and international dealing. A simplified, more stable currency could make accounting and pricing easier for foreign companies engaging with Iraq. It reduces the mental barrier of handling large numbers. If dollar exchange rates stabilize alongside, it may encourage more foreign investment, trade contracts, and business deals. For Iraqi exporters, setting prices in a more sensible local currency might help competitiveness, transparency, and trust. Over time, this could contribute to economic revival, but only if general governance, transparency, and macroeconomic policy improve along with the monetary changes. Of course, for many who have lived through hard times, this move will carry emotional and psychological weight. Handling banknotes that feel normal again instead of clunky zeros that can bring a sense of dignity. It feels like a reset, a fresh start. People may talk about it. Remember when our money used to be thousands and thousands, and now it's just tens? It may restore pride in the local currency. For older generations, it can evoke hope that maybe stability is returning. For younger people, it might make financial planning feel more real, more tangible. Something as simple as a smaller number can rebuild trust, reduce anxiety, and foster optimism. But with emotion comes responsibility. This change is significant, but not miraculous. It doesn't erase structural problems like inflation, unemployment, or economic inequality overnight. It doesn't guarantee job growth or sudden foreign investment. For many, daily life will still be about managing budgets, coping with high prices, and dealing with uncertainty. This redenomination is one tool, a useful one, but not a magic wand. It's important to stay realistic, to keep expectations tempered, and to support broader reforms. As we wait for conversions to begin, one thing you should watch carefully is how the central bank communicates. Official statements about exchange windows, accepted locations, deadlines, conversion rules will guide everything. Pay attention to national media, official bank outlets, and credible financial news. Avoid social media rumors, messages claiming secret timelines, or persons offering priority exchanges. These are often scams or misinformation. Trust official channels. Archive announcements. When you hear from date X, old notes will no longer be accepted. Act promptly but not recklessly. Now is also a good time for families, small businesses, and traders to reassess how they store savings. If you've been holding Dinar casually in dust-covered old bills, it might be worthwhile to organize them now. If you use Dinar for daily transactions, start mentally preparing. Picture prices with fewer zeros. Think about how you'll handle change and anticipate the transition. For business owners, especially small shops and vendors, stock up on basic supplies. Be ready for repricing and plan for possible slowdowns during conversion period. Transitions of this size always come with short-term friction. For those of you hoping this is the first step toward long-term economic revival, there are signs to watch. Beyond the zero removal, real change depends on oil revenues, fiscal policy, for investment, stability and governance, infrastructure rebuilding, and social services. If those align, the simplified currency can support new growth, clearer wages, stabilized prices, increased business activity. But if structural issues remain, corruption, instability, inflation, then the currency reset alone won't be enough. The real test lies ahead. So what's the balanced takeaway as we wrap this up? This redenomination is a bold, significant step. It simplifies the currency, restores clarity, and signals intent. For everyday Iraqis, whether in Baghdad, Basra, or expatriates abroad, it's a moment of reset. It offers hope, but it also demands responsibility. Stay informed, stay cautious, follow official guidance. Don't give in to hype or fear. Organize your holdings. Prepare for transition, but don't expect miracles overnight. And finally, what can you, as a viewer, do right now? First, stay calm. This change is big, but it's manageable. Second, secure your Dinar. Keep it safe. Keep it documented. Third, stay alert to official announcements from the central bank, trusted banks, national media. Fourth, avoid anyone promising get-rich-quick schemes or secret revaluation secrets. And fifth, talk to your family, your community, your network. Share accurate information, help others understand what's real and what's rumor. All right, dear viewers, that's the deep dive into the biggest shakeup the dinar has seen in years. Zero removal from the 20,000 dinar note. Not a guarantee of wealth, not a last step, but a crucial reset. If you found this helpful, or if you're anxious, hopeful, curious, let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts, your questions, your doubts. I'm here to watch, learn, and walk this path with you. And if you want more updates as this story unfolds, hit subscribe, tap that notification bell, and stay connected. This is a historic moment in Iraq. Let's stay informed, stay smart, and stay hopeful together.